How's it going this week, everybody? So this week I'm going to be having John on, and he's going to tell me a story about how he grew up in a haunted house, and it's a really good story, and I had a great time chatting with him. By the way, if anyone's interested, head over to our Facebook page. I've literally just been doing nothing but grinding out, trying to find all kinds of interesting photos and artwork from just about all periods of time that depict some type of weird creature or mystery. So there's a lot of cool stuff to read over on our Facebook page. Also, our membership's doing really well. I really got to thank all you guys for that. If you guys want to go check it out, you get episodes 2 weeks early over at challengetheunknown.com. Enjoy the show tonight, guys. Alrighty, man, we're going. Welcome on in, man. Tell me about what you saw.
Well, growing up, there was a lot of, weird stuff that happened. The feeling of being watched and whatnot, the doors closing by themselves, things, for example, if you would sometimes be on a different floor, things would just be falling in the floor above or below you and whatnot. And so.
Creepy.
Yeah, I never was a big fan of that house growing up. It wasn't even that old, mind you. It was, fairly new because it was built in the 70s, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, there was the music that was always kind of creepy.
The music? Explain that to me.
Yeah, so basically one time my dad and I were home alone, just having dinner in our dining room.
Okay.
Everything else was off in the house, and then all of a sudden, out of my dad's den, we just start hearing this really low, depressing piano music playing out of nowhere, mind you, and we literally could not find the source of it whatsoever. And...
Huh. Interesting. See, so it was piano. You don't have a piano, I assume.
No.
That's weird. It's just weird music playing in the middle of the house in the middle of the night, right? I assume it was night.
Yeah.
Oh, that's creepy. Just explain that whole situation. You guys were sitting down having dinner. Were you at a dining table in front of the TV or?
Oh yeah, at in our dining room, which was just adjacent of the den. So.
Okay, so who noticed it first? Did you guys kind of same time look up at each other, or was it
I noticed it first, and I was like, "Oh, hey, what's that?" Blah blah blah, and I was and then I got up because I was looking around trying to figure out where this sound was coming from.
Huh.
And it was just yeah. My dad wasn't too bothered though by it. It doesn't seem.
Okay. He's just whatever, it happens.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
But he always was like that though with weird stuff.
Just brush it off.
Oh yeah.
So what happens next? So how long did you live in this house? I guess we'll start with.
Well, I moved there when I was probably because I was adopted, and I moved there when I was 7 or 8, and then I moved from there when I was 16 after my dad passed.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Oh, it's all good.
So,
hey, my dad, yeah.
What were we gonna say though?
I was just gonna say, hey, my dad, he lived a good life and died with a smile on his face, and
there you go.
More than,
that's all you need, man.
Exactly.
So, what other kind of experiences did you have in that house? You were there for what, 10 years about?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. For example, one time, growing up, I had this walk-in closet, right? And often the doors would just rattle back and forth very violently and whatnot. And
oh, creepy.
Oh yeah. There was another weird time that my dad and I were, in the house, where we saw. It's hard to describe. It was like a see-through version of a ox head in one of our halls.
Like an ox, the animal?
Yes.
Whoa. So was it like a silhouette kind of thing, or?
You could see right through it.
Huh. Like transparent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. That's freaky. What do you think that was?
I'm not really sure, honestly. Could have been perhaps the light or something, but yeah.
That's creepy. It's always weird when you hear about animal mimicry and that kind of stuff. That's always freaky to me,
Oh yeah.
Talked to a guy the
Um,
other night who saw like this weird thing with like an anteater head, is how he described it in his room like a couple years ago. I was like, ugh, it's always creepy.
yeah, that is always kind of bizarre. Let's see, like in that house, I mean, on the property as well, growing up. I mean, because we had a fair bit of land. We had
Okay.
about 70 acres. Sometimes as well, a couple times we saw lights in the sky.
Oh, tell me about that. You buy into the whole extraterrestrial thing?
I definitely think. I mean, seeing how big the universe is and whatnot, it is mathematically probable that there's other life in
Right.
the universe.
I mean, statistically,
whether or not
they have to, you know?
Oh yeah. Now whether or not that life is visiting Earth, I mean, is another issue entirely.
Right.
I mean, it's certainly credible enough for. Did you hear about what the Pentagon has been doing?
How they've been studying all that stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that
Yeah.
stuff's wild.
Oh yeah. There's, I mean, definitely something going on. And I mean, if you also look at historical accounts, even from the past couple decades, I mean, there's obviously something like. Have you heard of the Rendlesham Forest incident?
Oh, with the military and how they follow this craft into the forest.
Yeah, or basically, well, in Rendlesham back in the 80s, there was a secret base owned by the U.S. And the U.K.
Mhm.
And yeah, they were seeing things in the sky, and also literally one of the supposed craft even landed, and they got audio transcripts and everything from the event, and
Yeah,
from
I've listened to them.
Oh yeah,
Man, that's always freaky. I think the ground was radioactive too, where it landed,
yeah,
which was really interesting. Like whenever there's like physical evidence to back up something that happened like that is always cool. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
weird, whatever those things are, man. They're seeing something, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there's case stories going back even to ancient times and whatnot, or
Oh yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, what I saw on our land in Vermont wasn't as spectacular as lights that would initially just stay still in the sky and then just move really fast, like to a different spot and back and forth. And
no disc-shaped craft landing in your yard or nothing.
as far as I know, no.
I hear that, brother. That's cool though. That's always a cool experience, man. Seeing lights in the sky that you can't explain, that do stuff that doesn't make sense. That's always cool to see.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I last year I actually got video of it. I was out with some old friends one night, and these like orange balls in the sky that had like flame trails were like doing these weird aerial movements and like reascending up into the sky and coming back down. It was really weird.
Yeah, that is kind of strange.
So a lot of people were, when I posted the video up, a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's skydivers, with flares." But I was like, they're going back up. They're falling and then they're turning around and going back up into the sky. Like that's not those aren't parachutes, So,
Exactly. Yeah.
don't know what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really tell. I mean, but I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe the Pentagon will learn more, I suppose, eventually.
Well, I get why the U.S. government looks into it, man. Like, there's some type of aerial craft that isn't ours, and if it's coming into our airspace, I can see why they're worried about it from a national security standpoint, even if they don't think it's aliens, they're like, maybe it's Russian, maybe Russians made some breakthrough that we don't know about, So
Exactly.
I get why they look into it, I don't think it has to. Like I don't think they necessarily buy into the whole UFO thing if they're looking into it, but clearly it verifies that there is something that's flying through our skies that we don't know about, So that is really interesting to know.
Yeah, it's also kind of interesting on the whole subject how a lot of these sightings are seen, especially with like the U.S. Navy and whatnot over the oceans, or people claiming to see things coming out of the water.
Oh, that's always freaky.
Yeah, I mean, it would kind of make sense. I mean, because for example, if there are craft we don't know about, they most likely would be used. For example, do you know anything about fusion, energy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what nowadays, what they're thinking, like, to make the energy for said reactors, one of the main ingredients is salt water. Well, what's in the salt water.
Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, there's some. I forgot the name of the mineral or element in the water, in the salt water itself. Like that basically allows it to work. But I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, potentially. But.
The whole UFO stuff is always fascinating to me, man. Like, there's stories of it's Russia. Russia, after the KGB and the Soviet Union collapsed, there was this whole, like, George Kapp was the guy that while he was studying the whole Bob Lazar story, I almost said Bob Ross, Bob Lazar story, he wound up going to Russia because he managed to get in contact with some guy that used to work for the KGB on, like, the nuclear sites, like the missile sites, or I might have that a little bit off there. He was involved in the Soviet Union, and he was familiar with all the incidents going on. But the story that he gave him was that a craft showed up over one of the nuclear missile bases in Russia back during the Cold War, and it turned on and activated all the missiles. Everything lit up like they had activated the missiles, and everything turned on like they were going to fire them. And then the craft went away, and everything shut back down. And so they sent in the scientists and stuff, and they ripped apart all the machines to figure out what went wrong, and they couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
So they think it was the craft that did it, and he actually came back to the U.S. with those documents because he actually got documentation of it from the guy that used to be a part of the Soviet Union, and it actually fell into the U.S. military hands, which is really, really interesting. So clearly it was the story itself was credible because the U.S. military ended up taking that information. And dude, can you imagine though being a George Kapp trying to come back into the U.S. with fucking Soviet Union documents, dude? I would shit my pants.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'd be worried about getting caught and stuff because it's Russia. They would totally jail you for that. So that'd be real stressful. But he got him back. He got onto the plane and made it back to the U.S. with those documents, and it's all interesting, man. And I guess are there any other really crazy stories with you while you were living in that house, or was that kind of the gist of the weirdness?
In that house, that was about it. Though when I did move, I did have one other weird experience.
Okay, what happened?
Basically, I was like trying to take a picture with my camera for my parents, and then in one of the pictures, just like weird face shows up near the ceiling.
Oof, that's creepy.
And it had, it was like a bald head and had like milk white eyes and whatnot. And
do you still have those photos or nah?
I believe I still have the photo somewhere. Yeah, it's yeah,
that's wild.
Oh, yeah. I could send it to you sometime if you'd like.
Yeah, no, that'd be really cool. I'd love to see it. Yeah. And actually, there was this one girl I was trying to get to come on. I don't think she ever got back to me, but she posted some nudes on Reddit, and basically she was taking nudes for somebody, and there was she had two pictures of herself, and in the background there's like this silhouette in the window, and it in both photos it's in like a different position, like looking in, and it's super creepy, and it's clearly not a person, but it's just like this like green tinted like humanoid silhouette looking in the window, and it's super creepy. I have the photos, but it's just so creepy. I really wanted her to come on because I thought that would make such a fantastic episode, taking scandalous photos and you catch a ghost on camera. I think that would have made a great episode, but I don't think she ever got back to me. I'd have to go back through my messages, but nah, dude. People are photographing stuff, man. Like it's people say where's the proof, and I'm like, man, there's proof. I get that there's a lot of hoaxes these days, but you can't write it all off as hoaxes.
Oh yeah, of course.
So like for your example, that there was nobody else there, and I get that human perception can be flawed, and people can mistake things and misidentify things, and then there's the people that Not to shit on anybody too much, but like there's people that will like zoom in on photos and try and find matrixing and be like, oh, there's a face there, when it's just like blurry pixels.
Yeah, there's a
And
term for that where somebody tries to find something like find symbolism where there isn't. For what it's called though.
um,
Um,
matrixing is one of the terms for it.
yeah.
And but yeah, no, it's not really a ghost. It's just pixels, and your mind is trying to figure out, like place familiarity to it. It's really interesting of a concept, like how your mind tries to fill in the gaps, but then there's like it's one thing when it's blurry pixels, and it's another when there's literally some figure standing in your photo that shouldn't be there, and
Yeah.
it's freaky. It's freaky stuff, man. And like, how long have you been on like the subreddits and stuff?
You mean just Reddit in general, or that particular subreddit?
Yeah, that particular subreddit.
A little while now. Not too long, but
It's freaky stuff, man. What do you think is the craziest story you've read on there that is most convincing to you?
I mean they're all fairly credible, I suppose. I don't have a particular story in general, but
there's a lot of them that I read through, man, and like it's always fun to talk to people over the years. Like I've had a lot of people on at this point, and I've also had people that just come on and talk to me, and they don't want to be on like episodes or anything, but they'll talk to me. And I get a lot of crazy stories, man. Like, and I mean crazy in like that they're credible, and I believe that person, and I don't think that they're, I think they're no bullshit kind of people, and they're really telling the truth, that they saw something that they can't explain, and they, they're like, it's not a false memory. I'm not remembering stuff different. I know what I saw. There was another person with me. They saw it too. We still talk about it, and that stuff is always just fascinating to me. And I feel like people try and write off stuff too much, like you're just remembering stuff different, or you didn't see what you actually saw, And I think that's it's kind of dishonest, and it's kind of getting in the way of actually figuring out what's going on, because people are seeing something, man.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's far easier to believe that somebody may have a false memory, or or they Photoshop something, for example, than it is to face a harsher, truth.
Right.
There might be something out there that we have no control over, that we don't know about, and it's out of current human understanding.
Right. Like I don't think it's far fetched for us to believe that these things are happening. We have some documentation of it. We just don't have the tech to understand what it is yet. Whether they're interdimensional stuff, or whether it's some light spectrum stuff going on, like I don't know, man. I just don't think we have the tech yet to understand what's going on, and
of course,
I get that we've made a lot of technological advances in the last 100 to 200 years, but I don't think we're really that far advanced yet. We're pretty new to the playing field, in my opinion. Like there's a lot of stuff, like another 200 years from now, God, imagine where we're going to be, like tech wise.
Exactly. I mean, for example, if you showed, like, say you showed the technology we have nowadays to, say, like somebody in early history, like a caveman or something, they would think it's magic or the supernatural, or something like that, along those lines, and because they don't have the they don't know how to process that properly, and so.
They don't have the disciplines of science established yet to understand how it operates or what it is. They can see it and they can touch it and they can feel it, but they don't understand what it is or how it works.
Exactly. And we're in that, current state, I suppose.
Yeah. It's freaky stuff, man. And I love the whole thing. What I guess here's a fun one for you. What do you think about, like, are there any cryptids that you really buy into?
I mean, personally, I try to remain indifferent when it comes to most things. So if there's, evidence one way or another, but none in particular that stand out. Yeah, I know up in this area, there's a lot of stories of the Wendigo and whatnot, and
it's always a fun one.
Oh yeah,
Wendigo stuff is freaky, man. Freaky stuff.
Yeah.
That and skinwalkers, that stuff always gets to me. Stuff's always freaky.
Oh yeah. I'm sure you've heard of Skinwalker Ranch, then.
Sure have. It's freaky.
Yeah.
I'd love to get out there with, like, have you read the book?
A part of it, yeah.
I read through the book probably about less than 2 years ago, And like
Mm-hmm.
just some of the stuff they talk about, like we said, it's they can see it, they can measure, but they're struggling to measure it and figure out what it is because our tech just isn't there yet. Like they're seeing stuff, and they're not able to capture it or document it really outside of like the animal mutilations. There's really not much they can really document, and that's eventually why I think that their project lost funding. But it's interesting stuff, man. It really is, and I wonder in another 200 years if we're gonna understand what ghosts and stuff used to be. You know, like whether they're, whatever they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, when it comes to ghosts, I think they could possibly, I mean, be, for example, maybe another universe pressing in, or if, for example, the entire idea of, the simulation theory. Actually, I believe the U.S. government tried to study things similar to that, or, most, poltergeists or just weird things happening back in the 70s and 80s.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it was further, have you ever heard of Project Stargate?
No, I haven't actually.
Basically, it was a decades-long program by the U.S. government, military, to try to study, quote unquote, remote viewing and psychics and whatnot for military applications.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So they were thinking initially, because they were trying to study, households that had a lot of weird things happening, so they thought it could be, an actual person doing it instead of, like a ghost or whatnot.
Huh.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be really cool. I'll have to look into that. I know about Project Blue Book, which was all the UFO stuff back in the 70s. No, it was in the 60s. Yeah, it was in the 60s that Project Blue Book was. And that was all the UFO stuff where they were trying to figure out what they were and if they were like Russian or something, they didn't know what it was. So
yeah,
whether or not they bought into the alien thing or not, it's still interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I bet they're still running that kind of stuff, I bet that it's under a different name nowadays.
Well, man, that's what they did when they were studying, UFOs. Because there was, a program back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s that got rebranded eventually, and
changed the name so that people don't know what they're talking about, and
a
lot of people think that all this stuff is hokey pokey, but I think there's something to it, man. I really do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, but nah, man, I thought your story was really interesting, and I guess are you ready to wrap it up, man? I think we covered it. I thought your story was really good.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm ready to wrap it up whenever you are.
Sounds good, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, of course. Always happy to talk with other people, about it, and
100%. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Oh yeah.